Have been to the Philippines before? Thank you. Where exactly, sir? Manila. Yep. How do you find it? Beautiful? Chaotic? Yeah, a lot of traffic, pollution. Yep. Yes. Okay, so this is the Philippine mission work, and I have pictures here. That's my wife, Lynn. Now that's the map of the Philippines. Now this is our church, and this is the location of our church. Now this is the map of the Philippines. At the central portion of that map is the Visayas Island, and those are some of the islands of the Visayas. We have Negros, we have Cebu, Leyte, Bohol, and we are in Negros. Negros has two provinces, Negros Occidental and Negros Oriental. We are on the northern portion of Negros Occidental. So our address is Calatrava, Negros Occidental, Philippines. And this is where we are, our church is. So that shaded colored portion is Negros Occidental. The unshaded to the right is Negros Oriental. Now this is the map of Calatrava, and that's where our church is, Bethel Missionary Baptist Church. So that yellow line is the National Highway. So we are near the National Highway, and this is our church sign. This is how the church looks from the street below. And this is the sanctuary, the interior of our church. We used to have plastic chairs, but the Lord's blessed. We were able to raise some funds, and we bought these 20 wooden pews, and they can sit as many as 120 Filipinos. Maybe 3 or 4 Americans for each pew, but and this is our dike project that we had in 2020, and this was when the pandemic was just, in its zenith. That portion of the church property collapsed due to heavy rain. Then we got an offering from George Ford MBC to build that dike, and so we were able to do that. And we have that dike project, and it's secure. Now this one here is the architect's drawing of our desire and prayer for the Lord to bless us with funds to build the second floor of our church building. Right now, we only have the first floor, the sanctuary, and then a small children's classroom to the left. And we would try to build 4 more classrooms in the second floor. And we are trying to raise funds in this visit towards that project. Now we have baptism services, and we added more or less 30 souls since the COVID-19 thing began. So it's just wonderful to be able to reach out to more people with the gospel, especially during the pandemic. And this was done in February 13. This was done in June 19, 2021. Now this was done in June 30 last year, and then this was done in March 30. Now, just go back. No. Balik. Okay, now this man here is a village official in one of the villages in Calatrava, and he was in charge of the border checkpoint during the pandemic, because during the lockdown, each town has its own border checkpoint. You cannot go there, or you cannot visit any town easily. And this man was in charge of the border between Calatrava and San Carlos City. He was a devout Catholic. And Lynn and I came to their post, brought some snacks, talked with them, and tried to share the gospel with them. We did that for several months. And finally, he asked about our church, and he asked about the Bible, and we started having conversations with him, and then he went to church, and he made a profession, and he got baptized, and then later on his family came with him to church, and his wife got saved, and his kids got saved. So what I'm trying to say is, we often think of the pandemic as something that, brought so many bad things. But for us, of course, it did. But it also resulted to so many wonderful things. Like these people here, this man here, I would never be able to reach out to him without the pandemic happening. He simply won't, and he would have nothing to do with me. But the pandemic happened. He was in his post. We were there. We reached out to them, especially to him, and the Lord's blessed. He got saved, and he is now a very active member of our church. These are two young people getting baptized, and then now these are young people from a village called Achilles, and these young people have been attending our children's feeding programs since they were very young, and they've been attending that for several years. They are now in their teenage years. They got saved a few months ago, and they got baptized. So we have children's feeding. We will show you later. And then this lady that I was baptizing is 78 years old. She was a devout Catholic. She is the prayer leader of the church, local Catholic church in Achilles. And she got saved a few months ago, and she is very active in our church right now. And she often tells me that her only regret was that she got saved at 78. But that's okay. That's still a blessing. Now, we have our church anniversary last year, and we have a special service. Those are members singing a special song. And then we have the young people in our church singing a special song during that celebration. And then we have these men in our church in a special song also. And then we have our outreach ministries. First of all, we have our children's feeding. We have feeding in 6 to 8 places every month. This one is in Achilles Village. And this one is in San Isidro Village in one of the districts there called Punta. And then this one is in the same village in a district called Kotkot. Then this one is in the same village in a district called Proper, which is the center of that village. And then we have this feeding in Valle Hermoso. And this is very interesting because this village is up in the mountains of Negros Oriental, and it is under the direct influence of the communist insurgents or communist rebels. And the first time we were there, nobody came to us, nobody entertained us. And we tried to reach to the people. We tried to win their hearts and minds, and we did that by feeding their kids. It's really challenging because the first time with the feeding, nobody came. And they were suspicious of strangers like us. And that's because they are being told by the communist guerrillas that we should not entertain strangers because they might be government agents trying to spy on them. And we are so glad because finally we were able to do it several times, and people started coming. The kids started coming, and the parents came, and we were able to have a good relationship with them through this ministry. And finally we were able to do Bible studies. Right now we have Sunday morning services in this village. And our local missionary, Brother Alfie Castel, is doing a good job with the villagers there. And this is in Canlaon City. Now, Canlaon City is an active volcano, and there's a city at the foot of it. It's called Canlaon City. And we have a mission work there. We have children's feeding in that area. And then, of course, another outreach that we have is the ladies' Bible study every Thursday. Now, ladies in our church would invite ladies who are not in the church. to attend Bible studies, and they do this every Thursday. And that old lady, 78-year-old lady that I baptized, she was saved through this outreach. And then we have our usual evangelism activities. On the top picture, I am with church members, giving out gospel tracts and doing personal witnessing, personal evangelism to people in Valhermoso. And this is a Bibles distribution ministry. We have the Beams Bibles. Now churches and individuals send Beams Bibles to me, and we distribute that to local sister churches in our work. Those are pictures of teachers in a mountain high school receiving 150 Bibles from us, and they gave that to the parents and students of their school. And we also distributed Bibles to the typhoon victims in Negros Oriental last January. And we have distributed more or less 500 Bibles this year. So if the Lord puts a burden in your heart to send Bibles, Beams Bibles, all you have to do is you go to the Beams warehouse in Gulfport and just ask for my address, and then you will pay $105 for a big box of Cebuano Bibles. You choose the dialect Cebuano, and they'll send that to me. And it'll take about 3 to 4 months. Now we have our Faithway Baptist Emergency Assistance Ministry, which we do during disasters. Like for example, we have during the COVID lockdown, we distributed food packs to families in our church and missions and in our sister churches too, and also in people in our community where our church is located. So we were able to help more or less 1,000 families during the COVID lockdown. And it was a difficult period for all of us there because, you know, most Filipinos are very poor and they don't have extra money to buy food, especially during the lockdown when, you know, people have no jobs, everything just shut down. So we were able to help so many people there. And of course, with the food packs, we give Bibles, we give gospel tracts, and we try to reach out to the lost. And this one was the typhoon that hit Negros sometime in the end of December, and we did relief operations on the month of January this year. Now these pictures were taken in Negros Oriental. As you can see, so many people were falling in line for food and used clothes. Now you can see me preaching to the people who are victims of Typhoon Odette in Negros Oriental. And in this place, we now have a weekly Bible study. And we were able to reach out to the people in this area. And then we have the flood that happened in Cadiz City sometime in the same month of the same year. And we were able to distribute used clothes and food. Now, that place is a Roman Catholic church. As what happens usually in the Philippines, the church is used as a refuge for people who are, you know, running away from a typhoon or flood. And we were there. We are so thankful to be able to just go there and distribute the relief goods, Bibles, tracts. And it's just, you know, wonderful because they're inside the Catholic Church, and we Baptists are coming there, and they say, how much for this? I said, no, that's free. And they have the Bibles, they have the gospel tracts, so it's a wonderful thing. Now, we also have our radio ministry. I preach twice every Saturday evening. Now, the red circle there is the coverage of my radio program in a radio station in Cebu Island. The white circle there is the coverage of my radio program in an island called Siquijor, which is southeast of Negros Oriental. So basically, we reach out to thousands of homes every Saturday, and it's wonderful because we receive messages asking for the Word of God, asking for Bibles. And in fact, when we come back there, when we go home, I will be starting a mission work in Siquijor. That's a small island of 6 towns. It's a province, and it's basically known for witchcraft. And it's a challenging, the Lord has put a burden in my heart. It's a challenging work, but you know, there are some prospects there. There are some families there who have texted me, and they say they are very interested in having me for Bible study. So just pray for me. And then we have our police ministry. This is the Calatrava Police Department. We have these pictures way back 2021. As you can see, we are wearing face masks, and we do Bible studies, counseling. We do special programs with the police department. Now, you are looking at the entire police department of Calatrava. That's more or less 30 officers for 100,000 people. And you can only imagine the work they had to do. And this is our local missions. We have a mission work in Canlaon City, where we had feeding. I show you the pictures of the feeding. Now, the volcano is behind the clouds there. And it's an active volcano. Now, our missionary there is Brother Early Disma. And he is with his family doing mission work while we go there sometimes every week to help him with the mission. And then this is the mission in Valle Hermoso in Malangsa village. I showed the pictures of the feeding there. Now that's Brother Alfie, his wife Jennifer, on this one here, and some of the children that they have Bible classes every weekend. And that picture here is me preaching during the first mission anniversary. Because in the Philippines, most Baptist churches, we celebrate anniversaries, like every year. So if you remember, I showed you the picture of our 20th church anniversary. So we do that. We invite friends, neighbors, and then we try to preach the gospel to them. And this is the mission work in Minautok, which is a mountain village in Calatrava. Our local missionary there is Brother Alvi, and this is Brother Alvi with his wife, Concepcion, and daughter Eunice. Now, you will wonder why there is no picture of the mission work, and it's because Minautok is also under the influence of the communist movement. And we deem it wise that if every time we go there, we do not bring our cameras. We just go there bringing the Bible and gospel tracts, and we don't take pictures there. That's what I'm trying to say, because whenever you take pictures, they get suspicious and they'll report that to the communist rebels, and you know they will do things that not good. So we don't have pictures with Minautok Mission. Now this is our ladies meeting. This ladies meeting are ladies from our churches, sister churches. So we had about 150 ladies from several sister churches. This was done in March 2022, and that's Lynn and me and the ladies from our church, and these are the ladies that attended that event. And then we have the youth camp that we had last April. We had about 200 young people, and it's the biggest attendance we had so far. And that's me and Neil and Lynn, and then that's the young people in our church, and that's Lynn and me. So if young people here would come to the Philippines, April will be the best time to come, because we have our youth camp there. And it's dry, but you know, it's better dry than rainy in the Philippines. And of course, it's not that difficult right now, because we have a city near us, which is just 10 miles from us, and there's a restaurant there, two restaurants that serve American food. So if you go there, you won't miss America, because there's food there for you. Unless you want to eat rice most of the time, that'll be fine. Now this is Negros Islands men's meeting. This was done in March. This was in our church, and these are the men that attended that meeting, and then this is the men that attended that meeting in Cabancalan City, which is 4 hours from where we live. And this is Brother Ferdinand Duyaguit. He's my younger brother, and he is doing mission work in the same island that I am, and that's his family. His wife, Rian, is my wife's younger sister. So we got married to the same family. And that's his son, Ranz, and daughter, Impress. Now, I'm showing you this picture because if the Lord burdens your heart to support another missionary, I would highly recommend this man. He is a wonderful man of God. He is faithful. He is zealous in the work of the Lord. And he deserves your prayers and your support. If you have questions, I would be glad to answer them. Yes, sir? Yes, ma'am? Or sir?
Do you get baptized in the sea?
Yes, because we are near the sea. Yeah, every time. Now, in the mountains, they baptize in the rivers and creeks. But since we are near the sea, so we go to the sea, to the ocean for baptism. We don't baptize by sprinkling. Yeah. Okay, another question?
How dangerous is it whenever y'all are dealing in the areas where it's extremely communist?
Yes, it's a delicate balancing act for me and for some of the missionaries there. We do not want to project ourselves as pro-government or pro-communist. Like if we go to the mountains, we just stick on the Bible, the gospel. We don't talk too much about government or stuff like that. And I have this personal principle that if I go to the mountains and the communist rebels will ask me about government troops in the town, if I have seen some, I would say yes. And then if they ask me how many, I would say, I'm not telling. Because if I go back to the town and the police or military ask me if I have seen you, I will say yes, but if they'll say how many, I'm not telling them. I said, okay, that's fair. So I invited one of the commanders there. He's just this tall, but he was well known there in the mountains. And one time our paths crossed. I was in that particular house, and he was there with his men. And I know that he was the local commander of the communist guerrillas there. And I said, sir, would you like to listen to the word of God? And I said, well, sorry, pastor, but I am busy. And some other time, he said, but, you know, we try not to be, we try not to ask many things or many questions to them. We just stick to preaching the gospel and doing Bible studies there. Officially, of course, we have freedom of religion there. So there's no official persecutions there, but from time to time, of course, they'll do something behind the scenes just to hinder you or stop you from preaching or reaching out to their members. And it's really funny because it happened that the local priest told his people that if the Baptist preacher comes to your home and ask you if you are saved, just say yes. And I went to this house and I said, I'm here to share with you the gospel of Jesus Christ, but I'm going to ask if the Lord calls you, if you die, are you going to heaven 100%? And he said, yes. And that's unusual for a Catholic. Okay? That's unusual. And I said, okay, wow, that's nice, man, but how do you know you're going to heaven? And she said, our priest told us to tell you. Well, that's sad, of course, but you know, those are some of the subtle things that the Roman Catholic Church do, just to, you know, hinder missionaries like us from reaching their members, reaching out to their people. And
As you're trying to add on to your church, how much will it take for y'all to do what you're trying to accomplish? And where are you so far with that progress?
Sir?
The second floor of your church,
Yeah.
you mentioned you wanted to do that. What the first part of the question is, how much will that take, and how far are you along in the process
Okay.
of making it happen?
The whole project will cost around $30,000, and we are still not even, we don't have funds yet, but I'm thinking that if I can, with the funds that I will get from here in the offerings, I will set aside a portion of that towards that project. And we will try to do it phase by phase so that we will do the project as funds comes. So we cannot do it at one time. Sir, ma'am?
When you're doing mission work and you're talking to somebody that's of the Catholic religion, how do you usually start the conversation with them and like tell them about, try to tell them about God?
We usually start by asking them if he dies today, are you sure? Are you sure where you're going? It used to be that Catholics will say we don't know. It used to be, but of course Facebook came, social media came, and we have this Baptist saying we are going to heaven. We are sure of that. So they kind of adopt it, and they'll say, well, we are going to heaven. So the next question is, how do you know? And that's where that's where you will know that they are not really saved. And they'll say, well, we are doing our best. Hopefully. See, so that's where you enter. That's where you try to tell them about the way of salvation. Yes. Don't try to discuss the Pope, Mary, saints. You're not going anywhere. You see, when I was newly converted, I was on fire. And I went just preaching against the Pope, against worshiping images, purgatory, praying for the dead, saying Mass. Because I was on fire, and I've read the Bible. It's actually good, but in soul winning, doesn't work. You have to deal with their souls first, salvation first, and everything follows. When a Catholic gets saved, whether you ask him or not to come to your church, if he or she gets saved, she or he will come. That's for sure, 100%. I have not seen any Catholic saved by winning an argument with them. No. You will only hurt their feelings, and they'll just close the door and won't deal with you anymore. So, start with the gospel. Start where it should start: the soul, salvation, eternal life, forgiveness of sins, which is something that many Catholics don't know about, because they believe that they have to do penance, do something to earn God's salvation. So it is wonderful to emphasize that they do not have to earn salvation, because it's freely given. And I took pains to explain that to them, because that's what really counts. The things about the Pope and saints and Mary and stuff like that, they'll come later when they get saved, after they get saved.
How was you converted and led to Christ?
I grew up in a devout Catholic family, and my grandfather was a devout Catholic. And it's just strange because he was a devout Catholic, but he loves to collect Bibles, which is unusual. But when I was 8 years old, I read the Bible. I didn't understand it then, but I was religious. In other words, we were religious. And when I was in 5th grade, I was a helper in the altar. I helped, preparing for the Mass and stuff like that. And I do the prayers. I attend Mass. I was trying to be a good Catholic and trying to earn my way to heaven. But when I was in 8th grade, that's when I was 14 years old, the Lord started to convict me. And I realized that I was lost, that I'm not going to heaven. And I realized that I'm going to hell. And I have this heavy burden in my heart to looking for a way out, to find peace. I could not find peace through prayers, through the Mass. I could not find peace through, helping in the church. So I tried asking other people. And I even asked my priest about it. And he said, well, son, even me, a priest, is not sure if I can make it to heaven. I said, oh, really? He said, yes, nobody is sure. But we try our best. I said, this is not good. So it was December, last week of December 1990, and I was strolling in the beach once. It was about sunset, and my aunt, she was my mother's cousin. She was a devout missionary Baptist, and she was trying to witness to an old man in the beach during sunset. And I was within earshot from them, and I heard what she said to the old man. She was sharing the gospel, and for the first time in my life, I heard the gospel. And I heard how that if I believe in Jesus Christ, all my sins are forgiven. She was not talking to me, she was talking to the old man. But I was within earshot, I heard everything she said, and I said, this is what I need. This is what I've been looking for. And so that night, December 30, that night, I kneeled before God and acknowledged that I cannot save myself, and received Jesus Christ in my heart. It was as if peace came rushing, to me, and it's just a big burden lifted from me. It was amazing. I still cannot forget that. It's just as if it happened just yesterday. And this was 1990. Now, the following Sunday, I came to their service. Now, they were holding services back then in my aunt's house. It was a small house. And there was this missionary Baptist preacher. And when I entered the house, everybody was looking at me, and they could not just believe what they are seeing. The altar boy coming to their service. And my aunt said, son, did you eat something bad last night? I said, no, ma'am. So what happened to you? And I said, I got saved. That's amazing. And we have a very, it was a wonderful thing to be saved. And I believe in no-soul salvation. If you are saved, you know it. You know you're saved. Nobody has to tell you you are saved. You yourself know that you are saved. That wonderful peace that comes with it, it's just amazing. So, it's a wonderful thing. I have never regretted serving the Lord, and God has put a burden in my heart to reach out to my people, because they are religious but they're lost, and they need the gospel. Any more question? Now, if you want to go to the Philippines, you can ask me, or you can ask our dear brother there. He's been there. And I promise you, we will take good care of you. Of course, you have to be ready, because we would feed you rice most of the time, but rice is good. Okay, if you don't have question, then I'll return the time to Pastor Ben. Thank you so much. God bless.
Presentation, and then certainly even the response to the questions that have been asked. We appreciate Brother Jorgejill coming. He's going to be down at Socher tonight, and then he's got several more stops before they would be headed back home here in a few weeks. So, Brother Herschel, if you come around and get us a song, and we'll have a song. If you have something for Brother Jorgejill, you can put it here in the visiting minister spot.